Welcome to Dark Night Tales. They thought fear would silence everyone. But what happened next rewrote history. Tonight's story begins with a brilliant black boy whose intelligence made him a target, and ends with an act of courage so dangerous it was never meant to be remembered. In a time when black intelligence was treated as rebellion, the boy's mind became his greatest danger. Born into bondage, he showed an uncommon ability to read patterns, remember spoken words, and solve problems faster than men twice his age. Plantation overseers noticed he could count without marks, recall conversations days later, and correct mistakes others were afraid to speak aloud. What should have been praised instead spread fear. White authorities believed that an educated or intellectually sharp black child disrupted the order of slavery itself. Intelligence meant awareness, and awareness meant resistance. Rumors began to circulate that the boy was too smart, that he asked forbidden questions, that he watched everything quietly. To the Ku Klux Klan, a child like this represented a future they could not control. His family became targets not because of rebellion, but because of potential. The boy's brilliance symbolized a threat to white supremacy, proof that the lies used to justify slavery were false. In the twisted logic of hate, eliminating the family was seen as eliminating possibility. The KKK did not see a child, they saw a warning, and they chose terror as their answer. This was not random violence. It was calculated fear, aimed at killing not just a family, but the idea that a black child could ever be allowed to rise. The Ku Klux Klan did not act suddenly. It watched, waited, and whispered. As word spread about the boy's intelligence, resentment hardened into obsession. In secret meetings held far from the plantation roads, hooded men spoke his name not as a child, but as a problem. To them, intelligence in a black boy was an insult, a crack in the false hierarchy they depended on to justify terror. The Klan thrived on fear and examples. They believed violence worked best when it was public enough to warn others, yet brutal enough to silence questions. The boy's family lived quietly, caused no trouble, and followed every rule forced upon them. But that made no difference. Hatred does not need rebellion to grow. It feeds on existence alone. Night riders began passing the family's cabin more often. Crosses appeared in nearby fields, not always burning, sometimes carved into trees or fences. Silent threats meant to be understood. The message was clear: they were being watched. Every act of intimidation was designed to strip hope, to remind the enslaved that no amount of obedience or innocence could protect them. Within the Klan, the decision formed slowly, but deliberately. They would erase the family to restore order. This was how hatred matured, step by step, until murder felt justified. And once that line was crossed, there was no turning back. The attack was planned for darkness, when screams traveled poorly and witnesses were easier to deny. The Klan understood night as a weapon, one that hid faces, erased accountability, and amplified terror. Long after lamps were blown out and cabins fell silent, horses moved carefully through dirt paths, their hooves rapped to muffle sound. This was not chaos, it was preparation. The family never heard a warning. No shout, no chance to run. Doors were forced open in a storm of violence, meant to overwhelm before resistance could form. The Klan did not come for justice or answers. They came to make an example. Every act that followed was deliberate, intended to send a message to every enslaved person within miles. Intelligence would be punished, and silence was survival. Nearby cabins remained dark, not because no one heard, but because everyone did. Fear froze bodies in place. Parents covered children's mouths. Elders closed their eyes and prayed. To step outside meant death. To look too long meant being next. The night swallowed the crime as it had been designed to do. By dawn, the family was gone, but the horror lingered. The ground held the truth even when words could not. The clan believed the night had protected them. They believed fear had done its work. What they did not know was that darkness had also allowed something else to grow. Memory, anger, and a silent resolve that would soon bring them face to face with those they thought they had broken. The violence was never just about killing. It was about communication. The clan believed terror worked best when it lingered long after the bodies were gone. Every blow, every act of cruelty was calculated to spread fear beyond the family and into the hearts of all who lived nearby. This was not rage in the heat of the moment. It was cold, instructional brutality. The family was attacked in a way meant to erase dignity as well as life. Property was destroyed, personal items scattered, the home left in ruins so that daylight would reveal the warning clearly. The message was unmistakable. This is what happens when black intelligence, hope, or potential dares to exist. The clan wanted enslaved people to see obedience as their only path to survival. By leaving signs of violence behind, they ensured the story would travel faster than any rider. Fear would move from cabin to cabin, whispered through tears and sleepless nights. Children would be warned to stay silent. Parents would bury questions along with their grief. That was the goal, to choke resistance before it could breathe. But brutality has limits. Instead of crushing spirit completely, it exposed the clan's desperation. Their violence revealed how threatened they truly were, not by weapons, but by the possibility of a future they could not control. And while the clan believed they had ended the story that night, they had only written its darkest chapter. The response they never anticipated was already taking shape in silence. After the violence, the land fell into an unnatural quiet. No cries of mourning echoed openly. No questions were asked aloud. Fear had done exactly what the clan intended. It sealed lips and lowered eyes. Enslaved people understood the unspoken rule: to speak was to invite death, not just for yourself, but for everyone connected to you. The silence was heavy, almost suffocating. People passed the destroyed home without stopping, not out of indifference, but survival. Children were warned never to repeat what they had seen or heard. Elders spoke only in glances and gestures. Even grief had to be hidden, swallowed deep where no one could punish it. The clan mistook this silence for victory. They believed terror had erased memory. But silence did not mean forgetting. It meant waiting. Beneath the forced calm, every detail of that night was being carefully remembered. Who rode in, where they stood, how long they stayed. Fear sharpened memory instead of dulling it. This was the clan's greatest miscalculation. They thought silence was obedience. In reality, it became a shield, one that allowed pain, anger, and resolve to gather unseen. The voices they tried to destroy did not disappear. They simply learned how to speak without sound. Nearly everyone nearby had seen something: shadows moving, horses tied, lantern light cutting through the trees. Some heard names whispered. Others recognized voices they wished they didn't. These were not distant rumors, they were lived moments burned into memory. Yet every witness understood the same truth. Survival depended on denial. To be an enslaved witness was to carry knowledge that could kill you. Speaking meant torture. Pointing meant disappearance. Even remembering felt dangerous. The Klan relied on this fear, knowing the law would not protect black testimony, and that white silence would shield white violence. Justice, in any formal sense, was impossible, so the witnesses learned to communicate differently, through pauses, through eye contact, through careful movement. Information passed quietly while appearing like nothing at all. Fear forced them to become observers, not accusers, but observation is powerful when shared. What the Klan failed to see was that fear did not isolate the witnesses, it connected them. Each person knew others had seen the same thing. Each understood they were not alone in their knowing. And in that shared, unspoken truth, something began to form. An understanding that silence could be broken without a single word being spoken. It did not happen suddenly, and it was never announced. There were no signals, no leaders calling names, no spoken plans. The gathering formed the only way it could, through understanding. One by one, people stepped away from their cabins, fields, and work paths, moving as if drawn by the same unspoken pull. Fear still lived in their chests, but something stronger walked beside it. 97 enslaved men and women came together, not in anger, but in resolve. Some were young, others bent by years of labor. Some had lost family of their own. Others simply understood that what had happened could not be allowed to fade into silence. They did not carry weapons. They carried memory. They carried presence. They positioned themselves where the Klan would see them. Not hidden, not attacking. Just standing shoulder to shoulder, close enough to be counted. Their numbers were deliberate. Each person knew the risk. This was not rebellion in the way the Klan expected. It was something far more dangerous. By gathering openly, they denied the Klan what it relied on most: invisibility and fear. 97 lives refusing to scatter, refusing to look away. In that moment, they transformed from isolated victims into a single, undeniable force. The Klan had tried to erase a family. Instead, they had summoned witnesses who would no longer remain unseen. There were no chants, no raised fists, no spoken threats. That silence was intentional. The 97 stood without weapons, without movement, without fear on their faces, only certainty. In a world where enslaved people were expected to shrink, scatter, and submit, stillness itself became rebellion. The Klan riders hesitated. They were used to screams, to chaos, to people running. This was different. The crowd did not beg. They did not bow. They simply watched. Every pair of eyes held the weight of memory, making it impossible to deny what had been done. The Klan could terrorize individuals, but confronting unity without violence unsettled them. This quiet defiance stripped the Klan of control. Violence would expose them. Retreat would reveal weakness. For the first time, the balance shifted, not through force, but through presence. The enslaved had found a way to resist that could not easily be punished. In that moment, power changed hands. Not officially, not permanently, But undeniably, the clan had killed to enforce silence, yet here was silence used against them, calm, organized, unbreakable. It was resistance refined into its purest form. We are here, we remember, and we are not afraid to be seen. When the clansmen realized what they were facing, confusion cut through their confidence. 97 people stood before them, unarmed, unmoving, and united. No shouts challenged them. No threats gave them permission to respond with violence. The absence of words robbed the clan of the script they relied on. They searched faces for fear and found none they could exploit. Every stable reflected the same truth. You are known. Masks could hide identities, but not actions. In that silent confrontation, the clan understood something dangerous. What they had done would not disappear into rumor or darkness. It had been witnessed, counted, and remembered. Violence in that moment would have shattered the illusion of control they clung to. Too many eyes, too many bodies, too much certainty. Retreat, however, carried its own humiliation. The clan had built its power on intimidation, yet now intimidation failed. So they withdrew, not in defeat officially recorded, but in something far more unsettling: hesitation. For the first time, fear did not belong solely to the enslaved. It hung in the space between them, heavy and unmistakable. The clan rode away, knowing they were no longer unseen, and that knowledge followed them long after the night ended. No records praised what happened next. No newspapers told the story. No court documents preserved the names of the 97 who stood together that day. History, written by those in power, chose silence once again, but this time it was deliberate erasure. The stand did not end the clan. It did not bring justice for the murdered family. But it changed something quieter and more lasting. Word traveled the way truth always does, through memory, through stories told in fragments, through lessons passed to children about standing still when running was expected. The absence of written proof was itself a warning. Acts like this threatened the system more than open rebellion because they proved unity was possible. They proved terror was not absolute. That kind of knowledge was dangerous, so it was buried. Yet forgotten does not mean undone. The courage of those 97 lived on in ways history could not easily erase. In the confidence of later resistance, in the refusal to believe fear was final, in the understanding that even in the darkest systems, people found ways to confront evil without raising a hand or a voice. This was not a victory carved in stone. It was one carried in memory. And sometimes, memory is the most powerful form of defiance history has ever known.